So Evolve Profits is a group that concentrates on helping nonprofits reduce their expenses. In addition to that, we create an impact fund where we make a contribution from the dollars that we get paid in our fees back to creating bigger impact in the world. Over the past 10 years, our team has done over 25,000 audits, and we've saved businesses like yours over $1 billion. Evolve Profits really can become your hero because we can help corporate partners find ways to add to their bottom line, which will add to your mission with zero out-of-pocket costs. We have had some really good successes in the nonprofit world where we returned over $100,000 in overpaid premiums to one nonprofit. We found $100,000 in savings that was able to no longer need to fundraise for. And we're saving 27% over our prior year's expenses in health insurance for one nonprofit, which is about $300,000 annually. Another nonprofit, we found $650,000 in savings. It was actually an association because they were on the wrong coding for their merchant fee accounts. If you involve us and involve your corporate partners, we can be a key to helping find donations for you for budgeted items that they do not currently have. How does it work? Well, we identify and recover hidden cash flow opportunities that can be redeployed to further the important mission that your organization executes and also make a greater impact in the world. Our network is a bunch of all-star partners. So they're former executives and partners. We cover over 40 categories. Our partner network equals scale, and we have deep category experience. Everybody has had a minimum of 20 years experience in their category. And just to give you some ideas of what I'm referring to, for those that are in the medical space, our partner who does the medical expense reduction was the chief pricing officer and then the president of Cardinal Health, one of the largest suppliers of medical supplies in the country. Our gentleman who does logistics for us for 37 years worked for UPS. He was a senior executive vice president. He was in charge of creating the pricing schema they still use today. 4 years ago, he retired after 37 years, and now he does expense reduction for a living. A third partner does merchant fees. And he looks at every different type of opportunity. We are not a partner, so we don't get paid, but we have access like a partner who would get paid to all kinds of wholesale pricing across the 7 major different clearing groups that you can go through as a business. Our deep category experience, here's a list of the most common ones that we find most businesses, most nonprofits typically have. But in addition to that, there's 40 more that we can now handle and help with. Our successful projects deliver hidden cash flow and efficiencies by maintaining quality and service, enhancing your efficiencies, uncovering additional cash flow, leveraging best practices, and using trusted partners. The best part about what we do, we operate on a shared savings business model. So if we don't find any reductions in your expenses, you'll pay no fees. You will never receive a bill for us. We're willing to take 100% of that risk. If we do find savings, then we share in the savings together. We are able to find 10 to 40% savings per spend category, and do that over 89% of the time without changing your existing vendor. For us, if we can bring equal or better service levels, higher levels of product quality, and return that additional cash flow to your business without changing your vendor, that's our number one goal. While maybe a better solution would be to change vendors because they don't have your business and they're being more aggressive on a pricing standpoint, for us, our goal is to make a client happy, and it's always the client's decision as to how to move forward. As I mentioned, only you can authorize savings recommendations if a vendor change is required. If it's just pricing, then we can automatically implement that for you. Our process is pretty simple, 6 steps. We execute an agreement, we provide a statement of work for each project, we gather your data, and we create a baseline report. Once that's approved, we develop recommendations. Once it's agreed upon, we implement those recommendations. And then for 24 months, we will review and monitor to make sure that the expense reductions, the pricing improvement, the quality improvement, the service level improvements are actually being received by our clients. It only takes 4 to 12 weeks to unlock the hidden cash flow. Here's kind of an example. And each category is a little bit different, but it's 1 to 4 weeks to create the baseline report, another 1 to 4 weeks to create our recommendations, 2 to 4 weeks per category for a new supplier agreement if necessary, to change. If not necessary, just reconfirming new pricing. And then, as I mentioned before, for 24 months, we will review on an ongoing basis on how to make sure that all the savings are being received. And if they're not being received, then we actually go to the vendor for you and make sure that the credits are then credited back to your account. And we note that in our monthly reports that we provide. As I mentioned before, we create the baseline report. We're going to get the new costs, and then we're going to measure bias savings per unit. So a perfect example of that is we got a company with mobile device units of 550, and the cost per unit before we got involved was $100 per month per unit, which is that we saved $25 per unit. Now it's $75 a month. So regardless of how many units exist moving forward, there's going to be a savings of $25 per unit per month. So let's just say the next month you only had 540. So it would be $25 times 540. Maybe the month after that, you went up to 552. Then it would be 552 times $25 in savings. And so that way we know for sure that you're getting the real savings, because the negotiations that we do on your behalf have basically allowed us to get you a discount that you would not normally have gotten had we not been involved. The result of working with you is that you're going to increase your revenues by lowering your expenses. And for most nonprofits, that will allow you the ability to fundraise less, depending on what type of a nonprofit you are. We've seen anywhere between a 10% margin to 25% margin in most cases, which means if it's 10%, and we save you $100,000, that's $1 million you don't have to fundraise for. From our portion of the savings recovered, we're going to provide 5% into an impact fund that's directed by the client. So if you're the client, well, that can go right back to you. If one of your donors is a client, or someone you've been trying to get as a donor is a client, we're going to donate that money back to you, which is where the client would direct the money. And it can be applied to a cause-driven project, a community contribution, or as I mentioned, back to you. As you can imagine, this could be quite sizable amount for a large company where you find average savings of 18%. From our portion of the savings recovered, as I mentioned, we're going to donate 5% right back to you. So if you refer a donor who could increase their contributions once we uncover additional cash flow, or you can refer a donor that would like to help you but doesn't have a budget for it, and we'll find that budget for it. Or you can refer a donor that maybe you've not been able to convince to support your organization yet, and once again, being able to find that cash that can go back to you and be redistributed to your nonprofit. What's next? We'll review your spending to find savings, to see how the process works firsthand. We always recommend that a nonprofit go through the process first. First of all, so you can take that report back to your board, so the board can see it, which makes it an easier comparison for them to maybe want to hire us as well. And referring us to one of those corporate partners would be a great case study that you can use with other donors as well. and obviously getting in touch with us to be able to answer any questions. Want to thank everybody for attending, and we will be doing this again tomorrow.